Funny how people unsubscribe from your life without notice. One day they swear forever, the next they're gone. But hey, if you're here, hit subscribe. It's free, unlike loyalty. My sister thought I faked my pregnancy, then pushed me down the stairs to test me. Now my parents defend her and have threatened to cut me off if I press charges. I am 28 years old and currently 4 months pregnant. My husband, Newton, and I have been trying to conceive for the past 2 years, and I won't lie, there were moments when we nearly lost hope. The waiting felt endless. But then, when we least expected it, we finally got the news we had been dreaming of. I was pregnant. This pregnancy means everything to us. We've overcome so many obstacles to get here, and after experiencing miscarriages before, we wanted to be extra cautious. That's why we chose to keep it a secret, at least until we were sure everything was progressing smoothly. We couldn't bear the thought of another heartbreak, especially one we would have to grieve publicly. As of last week, neither my parents nor my youngest sister, Ellie, knew I was expecting. It felt strange keeping them in the dark, but I needed space. My family is the kind that celebrates everything big or small, and while I love that about them, I wasn't ready to share this news just yet. For the past 4 months, I've been distant from family gatherings. I needed time to process everything. But last week, Ellie got promoted at work. A huge milestone, especially after the heartbreak she suffered last year. Ellie was supposed to have her dream wedding. The night before, her fiancé cheated on her with a coworker at his bachelor party. Then, on the day of the wedding, he didn't even have the decency to tell her himself. He sent one of his friends to break the news. It was humiliating and devastating. Since then, Ellie has thrown herself into work, using it as a distraction. Her promotion was a moment of triumph after everything she'd been through. She practically begged me to come to her celebration, saying she missed me. My parents urged me as well, telling me how much it would mean to Ellie. I didn't want to disappoint her, so I agreed. But I also didn't want to steal the spotlight with my pregnancy. With my baby bump becoming more noticeable, I carefully chose a long, flowy dress and even wore shapewear to conceal it. I wanted the focus to stay on Ellie. At the party, everything seemed to be going smoothly. My mother did comment that I looked a little fuller, but I laughed it off, saying I'd been eating a lot. That seemed to satisfy her. The night dragged on and I started feeling out of place. I wasn't used to staying up late anymore, and the party's energy was overwhelming. Newton arrived from work and kept checking in on me, which I appreciated. Meanwhile, Ellie and the rest of the family were drinking, dancing, and having the time of their lives. I was happy for her, but I started feeling queasy from the heat and greasy food. I slipped inside the house for a moment of peace. Sitting on the couch, I closed my eyes just for a second, only to be startled awake by my Aunt Mia. She sat next to me, offering me wine, which I declined. Then she looked at me closely and suddenly commented on how I was glowing. Her eyes narrowed, and before I could react, she asked bluntly, "Are you pregnant?" I froze. I tried to laugh it off, but Aunt Mia wasn't easily fooled. She placed a hand on my stomach, and her eyes lit up in realization. "Oh my God, sweetheart, you are pregnant," she gasped, pulling me into a hug. Panic shot through me. I whispered, pleading with her not to say anything yet. This was Ellie's night. I didn't want to steal it. But Aunt Mia brushed off my concerns. She insisted that the family deserved to know and that everyone had been waiting for this moment. Before I could stop her, she got up and walked outside, straight toward the rest of the family. My heart sank. And then, with the same excitement as someone delivering life-changing news, Aunt Mia gathered everyone's attention. Aunt Mia gathered everyone's attention, her voice filled with excitement. "I have some big news to share," she declared. Then, without missing a beat, she pointed straight at me and, with the widest grin, announced, "She's pregnant." For a split second, silence filled the air as everyone processed what had just been said. Then, as if someone had flipped a switch, the party erupted into cheers and celebration. Before I could even react, my family rushed toward me, surrounding me in a blur of hugs, excited squeals, and overwhelming congratulations. They held me tightly, their eyes brimming with happy tears, expressing their pure joy for me and Newton. They had all known about our previous miscarriages, and now, knowing we had finally made it this far, their happiness was palpable. Even my parents were sobbing, overcome with emotion. My mother cupped my face, whispering how proud she was of me, while my father hugged Newton, offering him words of encouragement. It was a beautiful moment, except, it wasn't the moment I had planned. This wasn't how I wanted to announce my pregnancy. I had dreamed of something intimate, something personal, where I could share the news when I felt ready. Instead, I had been blindsided, forced into the spotlight at a party that was supposed to be about Ellie. And then I saw her. Ellie stood off to the side, clutching her wine glass, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't congratulating me. She was just watching. Guilt wrapped around me like a vice. This was exactly what I had wanted to avoid. I gently pulled myself away from the swarm of hugs and made my way to her. "Ellie, I'm so sorry," I said sincerely. "I never meant for this to happen. I didn't want to take attention away from you." She took a slow, deep breath before asking, "Why didn't you tell me?" There was something raw in her voice, hurt, maybe even betrayal. I explained everything, how I had planned to announce it in a few weeks, how I wanted to be sure before telling anyone. But Ellie just shook her head, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Whatever," she muttered. "I guess you got your wish." Her words hit me like a slap. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but before I could, she downed the rest of her drink and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The rest of the night was overwhelming. My family bombarded me with parenting advice, excitedly planning baby names and shower dates. But across the room, Ellie's cold, piercing gaze never left me. She barely spoke to me for the rest of the evening. The guilt only grew heavier. At one point, I felt an urgent need to use the bathroom. I hurried to the guest restroom only to find it occupied. Feeling desperate, I made my way upstairs to use the main bedroom's bathroom instead. After relieving myself, I stepped out and nearly jumped. Ellie was standing right outside the door waiting for me. She looked different. Her eyes were glassy, her posture slightly swaying. She was drunk. I forced an awkward smile. "Hey, look, I really am sorry about earlier." She cut me off with an exaggerated eye roll. "Are you really pregnant?" Her words were sharp. I blinked, caught off guard. "What?" Ellie crossed her arms. "You just show up after months of being distant. You didn't even tell Mom, and you always tell Mom everything. It's just weird." My patience was wearing thin. I placed a protective hand on my stomach. "Of course I'm pregnant. Why would I lie about that?" She let out a dry laugh. "I don't know," she said, her tone laced with skepticism. "But something about this just doesn't add up." I felt a twinge of irritation bubbling beneath my guilt. "Ellie, I had my reasons for keeping it a secret." But then, before I could say anything else, she leaned in slightly, her voice dropping into something darker, something almost accusatory. And what she said next sent a chill down my spine. Ellie's words sliced through me like a blade. "Maybe this pregnancy will also end in miscarriage, just like your previous ones." For a moment, I could hardly breathe. My entire body went numb as I tried to process what she had just said. The cruelty, the malice, it was unfathomable. My child, my precious child, and she had wished harm upon them. A red-hot wave of fury surged through me, my voice trembling with hurt and rage. "How dare you say something like that?" I shouted, my voice echoing through the hallway. "I've apologized to you multiple times tonight, but this is beyond cruel." Ellie didn't back down. Instead, she met my anger with her own bitterness. "Oh please," she snapped. "You always take the spotlight. You just had to steal this night from me too, didn't you? After everything I went through last year, after he left me, you couldn't even let me have this one night." I was stunned. "Ellie, I was there for you. I spent weeks at your place after your fiancé abandoned you. I held you when you cried yourself to sleep. I was the one who picked up your broken pieces." She scoffed. "And now you're the one everyone pities. You get the attention, the love, the support." I shook my head, overwhelmed with frustration. "This isn't about me stealing anything from you. If you want to be angry at someone, be mad at Aunt Mia. She announced my pregnancy without my consent. But you," my voice cracked, "you've crossed a line." I turned away, drained and disgusted. This conversation was going nowhere. I needed space. I started walking back downstairs, but Ellie wasn't done. She followed close behind, her voice a bitter whisper in my ear. "You're so selfish," she hissed. "You could have just let me have one night. But no, you had to ruin it." I ignored her. I was done. But just as I reached the top of the stairs, I felt a forceful shove from behind. The world tilted. My heart lurched as my body stumbled forward. My arms flailed, grasping for anything, to stop my fall. My fingers caught the railing for half a second, but the momentum was too strong. My knees buckled. And then, I fell. My body tumbled down the stairs, my mind barely able to register what was happening. Instinct took over. I wrapped my arms around my stomach, desperate to protect my baby. But the force of the fall was brutal. My wrists slammed into the steps, pain exploding through my hands. Crack. The snap. A searing, unbearable pain shot through my bones. I hit the bottom of the staircase with a gasp, the breath knocked from my lungs. For a moment all I could do was lie there, my body screaming in agony. But the pain in my wrists was nothing compared to the terror gripping my heart. The baby. Was my baby okay? Before I could even move, voices filled the air. Chaos. Newton's panicked voice. My mother's screams. The entire party rushing to me, their faces twisted in horror. Newton was the first to reach me, his hands shaking as he lifted me from the floor. Oh my God, baby, are you okay? I was in too much pain to answer. My wrists throbbed with a relentless, stabbing agony, but my mind could only focus on one thing. The baby, I gasped. Newton, the baby. He pressed frantic kisses to my forehead. We're getting you help. Just hold on. Then I saw Ellie. Standing at the top of the stairs, her face pale, her eyes wide with guilt. She wasn't saying a word. I forced out the words through the pain. She pushed me. The entire room fell into stunned silence. All eyes turned to Ellie. Newton's expression morphed from panic to pure, unfiltered rage. You did this? He roared. He took a step toward her, fists clenched, but my father held him back. My mother rushed to Ellie, grabbing her shoulders. Tell me this isn't true, Ellie? Tell me you didn't push your pregnant sister down the stairs. Tears streamed down Ellie's face. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. And then she nodded. Gasps rippled through the room. Newton looked like he was ready to lunge at her. My mother staggered backward as if Ellie had physically struck her. Ellie's voice trembled as she choked out, I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. But I was already slipping away. The pain, the shock, it was too much. My vision blurred, my body weakening. I barely registered Newton shouting for an ambulance before everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. The sterile scent of disinfectant filled my nose. My wrists throbbed beneath a thick cast. Newton was asleep beside me, his hands still wrapped around mine. I nudged him weakly. Water? I croaked. He stirred immediately, helping me drink before gently brushing the hair from my face. How do you feel? I swallowed. The baby? A soft smile broke through his exhaustion. Safe. The doctors checked. Our baby is okay. Relief crashed over me, bringing unexpected tears to my eyes. Thank God. Newton's face hardened. Ellie, he exhaled sharply. The police came. They needed your statement. Everyone wants her arrested. I looked away, my emotions tangled in an impossible knot. She pushed you, baby? On purpose? Newton pressed. You need to report her. I closed my eyes. I knew he was right. But before I made any decisions, I needed to hear from her. Newton handed me his phone. Ellie answered on the second ring. Her voice was raw. Honestly? I'm just so tired of you always being the center of attention in our family, she said bitterly. You have a husband now, you're pregnant, you get to have everything in your life. But last night was supposed to be about me. And, as usual, you just had to take that away. I was speechless. And pushing you? She added, her tone disturbingly casual. It was just a harmless prank. I didn't even think you were really pregnant at first. I didn't mean for it to be such a big deal. My stomach churned. She had no remorse. Not even an apology. Before I could react, she continued. I've been through so much, my engagement, my heartbreak. And then you show up, rubbing your perfect life in my face. Next time, maybe you'll think twice before overshadowing me again. I gripped the phone so tightly my casted wrist ached. Ellie had made her choice. And now I had to make mine. Newton and I have talked today and we plan on putting up cameras around the house just in case. I hope to never see my parents again. The last few months have been emotionally exhausting, but if this situation has taught me anything, it's that sometimes family isn't about blood, it's about who truly stands by you. My parents made their choice the moment they decided to defend Ellie instead of me. They proved that their love was conditional, that I was only valuable to them as long as I played my part and didn't stand up for myself. But I refused to be manipulated any longer. Ellie's actions had consequences. She pushed me down the stairs, risked my baby's life, and showed no remorse. No amount of guilt-tripping or manipulation will ever make me regret pressing charges against her. If I hadn't, she would never have been forced to confront the darkness inside her. Whether or not she actually changes is up to her. That's not my burden to bear anymore. As for my parents, their behavior only solidified my decision to cut ties. They didn't care about my pain, my trauma, or my safety. They only cared about protecting Ellie. But now that I've given birth, suddenly they want to play happy family? No, that's not how this works. Moving forward, Newton and I will focus on raising our beautiful son in a safe and loving environment. We will surround him with people who genuinely care about us. People who uplift and support us, not those who betray and manipulate us. To anyone reading this who has ever been in a similar situation, know this. Family is not just about blood, it's about love, respect, and loyalty. You are not obligated to forgive people who continuously hurt you. Protecting yourself and your loved ones is never wrong. Your well-being and peace matter. If this story resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect your peace? Share your thoughts below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more real-life stories like this. Thank you for being part of this journey. Stay strong, stay safe, and always prioritize your well-being.